Iran right now is an economic mess. They're going through hell. The sanctions have hit them hard. More sanctions are going to be put on, a lot more. It's hard to believe you can even put on, but it's a mess. All I want is no nuclear weapons.
سرنگون کردن هواپیمای جاسوسی آمریکا حامل یک پیام آشکار، واضح، قاطع، صریح و دقیق بود و آن این که مدافعان مرزهای میهن اسلامی ایران در مقابل تعرض هر بیگانه‌ای به این سرزمین عکس‌العمل‌ها و واکنش‌های قاطع تمام کننده
US President Donald Trump said on Saturday he'd postpone mass deportation raids for 2 weeks as he seeks compromise with Democratic leaders on immigration issues. The president was under pressure from Democrats to call off the roundup, expected to target families in up to 10 cities on Sunday. On Twitter, he said delaying the raids was to see if a compromise could be reached, but warned that if a solution isn't found to what he described as asylum and loophole problems, deportations would start. Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi had previously said the planned raids would inject terror into communities and tear families apart. The operation originally planned for today had been expected to target up to 2,000 families that have been facing deportation orders in as many as 10 cities. Trump based a large part of his 2016 campaign and is basing his 2020 re-election campaign on the issue of illegal immigration and his proposed wall across the US's southern border with Mexico.
Leah Harding joins me now live from Ethiopia's capital in Addis-Ababa, actually joins us by the phone. Leah, what more do we know about the assassination?
Yeah, well, we know that the head of the Ethiopian military, as you said, Tahar Matonen, is dead after trying to control the coup in Bahadar. Now, the federal government has not confirmed his killing, but the Tigray ruling party has. It's important because the four-star general was from that region. Addis and Bahadar are about 500 kilometers apart. Bahadar is the capital of the Amhara region, which is why the coup took place there. The events in Bahadar kicked off first with the attempted coup there. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed appeared on state television saying that the coup failed and that it was stopped within an hour. He also said that his chief of staff, Tahar Matonen, the man that was assassinated, was working to control the situation. Matonen, he would have been in charge of ordering security forces to take action from Addis, and it looks like that was when we believe he was killed. He would have been the one to take orders from the prime minister to try to control what was happening in Bahadar.
Now to that horrifying story out of Hawaii and the sad news that the death toll there in the plane crash has now risen to 11. The skydiving plane went down shortly after takeoff, and ABC's Will Carr is in Oahu with the latest on the investigation, including new questions about the plane itself. Will, good morning to you.
And Dan, federal investigators are on their way to the scene right now to see what caused this plane crash that ended up hitting next to me and hitting this fence. At least 6 people on board worked for that skydiving company. They worked in this community, they lived in this community, and their loss has rocked this island. Overnight, the heart of a community shattered on Oahu's North Shore after 11 people died in this plane crash. That fateful skydiving flight at sunset ending in a ball of flames just after takeoff.
We see the plane, it kind of does a turnaround from the mountains right there. It's flying at a pretty low altitude. It starts to flip reverse as it starts to kind of decline, and then it kind of skinned off those trees and then smashed down into the floor onto right up against that fence.
Some victims' own family members witnessed a terrifying crash, Hawaii's deadliest since 1981.
Shocking news coming in from Bihar. A part of the roof outside the ICU of the Sri Krishna Medical College and Hospital in Muzaffarpur has collapsed. No injury reported as of now. Now remember, this is the same hospital where patients in hundreds are suffering and undergoing treatment from that deadly encephalitis who had been admitted a few days ago. My colleague Rohit Singh to give me further details. Rohit, if there was not already tragedy and grief there in Muzaffarpur, what happened here at this hospital? What exactly is the reason for this collapse of the ceiling?
Well, Pooja, this hospital, the Sri Krishna Medical College Hospital in Muzaffarpur, continues to remain in the news for all the wrong reasons. And today what we have seen is that just outside the ICU ward, a part of the roof just fell down, and thankfully there were no patients there sitting or standing there, and that is why a major tragedy was averted. Had there been any person there, then obviously he or she could have got injured.
We begin with our top story this evening. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has allegedly received a personal letter from US President Donald Trump. Pyongyang state media has reported that Kim said the letter was excellent and had interesting content. Our Kan Yong-woo starts us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is purportedly reading a letter from US President Donald Trump. The Korean Central News Agency, Pyongyang's state media, reported on Sunday that Kim had received a personal letter from Trump with this image to prove it. However, the KCNA did not reveal when or how the letter was delivered to Kim. According to the report, the North Korean leader was very satisfied with the letter and its excellent content.
Saying that he appreciates Trump's political acumen and extraordinary courage, Chairman Kim added he would contemplate the interesting content of the letter.
Earlier this month, Trump said he received a personal letter of his own from Kim, describing it as beautiful and very warm.
Massive demonstrations are underway in Prague as thousands of Czechs call for embattled Prime Minister Babis to step down. Babis is a wealthy businessman who leads the populist ANO party. He's under investigation for corruption and conflicts of interest. Organizers estimate hundreds of thousands of people could show up, the biggest crowds since the country's 1989 revolution. DW correspondent Emmanuel Shaz is in Prague for us. Emmanuel, we can see huge crowds gathering behind you. What's going on where you are?
Well, I think the images and the sound really do speak for themselves. We're witnessing here a historic day for the Czech Republic, the Million Moments for Democracy civic movement, which started this wave of protest around the country, was hoping for just that, this amount of people here on Letná Park today in Prague. Letná Park, a highly symbolic place for the Czech people. This is where all the protests starting in 1989, and this is where today people are gathering and coming from all passes of life, be it students, pensioners, active people. They're gathering here to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Babis.
Bombers, submarines, and ballistic missiles, the Pentagon's triad of nuclear warfare. Usually atomic weapons are considered a means of deterrence, but a now classified DoD document suggests the war hawks in Washington may have other ideas.
Using nuclear weapons could create conditions for decisive results and the restoration of strategic stability. Specifically, the use of a nuclear weapon will fundamentally change the scope of a battle and create conditions that affect how commanders will prevail in conflict.
The The 60-page document came out in early June, only to be classified a week later by the Pentagon. It's a surprise it wasn't a secret to begin with. The fundamental principles underpinning Washington's nuclear operations are laid out for the world to see. And they don't exactly correspond to some of President Donald Trump's past talk of non-proliferation.
Between Russia and China and us, we're all making hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weapons, including nuclear, which is ridiculous. I think we're the leader. I think we're always going to be the leader. We have to be the leader. I think it's much better if we all got together and we didn't make these weapons. So I think that's something that could be a phase 2 after this is done.